Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're tackling something pretty invisible, but wow, is it everywhere? Microplastic pollution, specifically the stuff leaking from our wastewater treatment plants.
Yeah, it's a tricky one. We kind of assume treatment plants catch everything.
Right, exactly. But we've got this really insightful new study. It's out of UT Arlington.
Published in Science of the Total Environment.
And it's helping us understand why, even with treatment, these tiny plastics are still getting through.
That's the core of it. The research really lights up a critical challenge. Wastewater plants do help, significantly reducing the load.
But not totally.
But getting to complete removal,
Yeah.
it seems that's just not achievable with the tech we have right now.
Okay. And that obviously has implications for our health ecosystem.
Huge implications.
Absolutely. And the team doing this work, we should mention them. There's Eun-Young Kim, who's an assistant professor, Earth and Environmental Sciences, the senior author.
Right. And Jenny Kim-Nguyen, she was the lead author, actually started this as an undergrad. Now she's a master's student continuing the work.
That's fantastic continuity. And Karthikras Rajendaran, an assistant professor of research.
A strong team.
So our mission today for this deep dive is really to unpack their findings. Why are microplastics still a problem after treatment? What are the roadblocks?
And what can we actually do about it? Potential paths forward.
Exactly. We want to give you, our listeners, a really clear picture, maybe spark some of those aha moments, connect the dots on this whole thing.
Okay, so let's jump right in. That central finding, how effective are these treatment plants, really?
Well, like you said, they make a difference, a big one even. But perfect? No?
Not a perfect sieve.
Definitely not. Dr. Kim put it bluntly.
No.
While most wastewater treatment facilities significantly reduce microplastics loads, complete removal remains unattainable with current technologies.
Unattainable. That's a strong word.
It really is. It kind of sets the stage, doesn't it? So what does that mean, practically? Are we just constantly adding these particles back into the environment?
Well, yes, that seems to be the case. The treated wastewater, the effluent, still contains microplastics, and that water goes back into rivers, lakes.
And these plastics, they're not just inert little bits floating around, are they?
No, that's a key concern. They often don't travel alone. They can sort of soak up or attract other pollutants.
Ah, okay. Like magnets.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
Dr. Kim specifically mentioned things like bisphenols, chemicals used in making plastics.
Right. BPA and related stuff.
And PFAS, the forever chemicals we hear so much about.
Which are notoriously hard to get rid of.
Exactly. And even antibiotics that end up in wastewater.
So microplastic becomes a little transport vehicle for other nasty stuff.
Precisely. These chemicals can either be part of the plastic itself and leach out, or they can just stick to the surface as the plastic travels through the water.
And then we get exposed? How does that happen?
Well, think about it. Through drinking water, potentially. Washing clothes releases fibers, sure, but also the water itself might contain them. Even watering plants or gardens, if treated wastewater, is reused for irrigation.
Wow. Okay. And Dr. Kim mentioned potential long-term health impacts.
Yeah, and this is where it gets, quite serious. Things like potential links to cardiovascular disease, maybe even cancer risk down the line.
That really underscores the so what factor, doesn't it? Even if you can't see them.
The potential impact is significant.
Okay, so let's back up a bit. Why is this such a persistent issue? It comes down to plastic itself, right?
Absolutely. The very things that make plastic so useful. It's cheap, it's incredibly durable, it's versatile.
It's in everything. Food packaging, our clothes, personal care products.
Everywhere. And the crucial point is it doesn't biodegrade. It doesn't break down like, say, an apple core.
Right, it just breaks up.
Exactly. It fragments into smaller and smaller pieces. Those are the microplastics. And they stick around in the environment for, well, potentially centuries.
Centuries. Wow. Okay. So they persist. And the study, the UT Arlington one, it highlights some big challenges in just dealing with this problem, right? Even measuring it.
Yes, that's a huge piece of it. A major hurdle they found is the lack of standardized testing methods. How do you even consistently detect and measure these things?
Jenny Kim-Nguyen, the lead author, she mentioned this specifically. She said, we found that the effectiveness of treatments varies depending on the technology communities use.
Right. Different plants, different tech.
And how microplastics are measured to calculate the removal rates. So we're not even comparing apples to apples when we look at different facilities.
Exactly. If one lab measures down to a certain size and another measures differently or uses a different technique, how can you accurately compare how well plant A is doing versus plant B.
It makes it really hard to know what's working best.
Incredibly difficult.
Yeah.
And adding another layer of complexity, there isn't even one single, universally agreed-upon definition of what size particle counts as a microplastic.
Seriously, so we don't even agree on what we're looking for.
Well, there are common ranges used, but no single global standard. It's like trying to solve a puzzle where some pieces are measured in inches and others in centimeters.
Okay, that sounds fundamental. Jenny Kim Nguyen stressed this need for a unified approach, didn't she?
She did. She said, one way to better address the growing microplastics issue is to develop standardized testing methods that provide a clearer understanding of the issue.
It seems like step one, almost. You need reliable data.
You absolutely do. If you have standardized methods, you get comparable data. Then you can make better regulations, you can drive innovation in treatment technologies more effectively.
Makes sense. And beyond the tech and the standards, the researchers also talked about public awareness, right?
Yes. Karthikraj Rajendran mentioned that their research goal is ultimately about understanding the problem better so we can develop better ways to mitigate it.
That foundational understanding.
Right. And Dr. Eun Jung Kim brought up something quite direct, something related to us as consumers. Our choices matter, especially with clothing.
Ah, the microfiber issue.
Exactly. Those tiny plastic threads that shed from synthetic fabrics, polyester, nylon, acrylics every time we wash them.
And those go straight down the drain.
Straight into the wastewater stream. Dr. Kim actually pointed out that microfibers are the most common type of microplastic continuously released through wastewater.
Okay, so choosing clothes. How much difference can that really make? It feels like such a huge systemic problem.
That's a fair question. And look, individual choices alone won't solve it entirely. We definitely need bigger industrial shifts and better treatment tech.
Sure.
But reducing the load going into the system helps.
Yeah.
Right? Choosing natural fibers, cotton, wool, linen when possible. Or maybe using those special laundry bags designed to catch fibers. It all contributes.
So it's not nothing.
It's not nothing. And it raises awareness, too.
Yeah.
It's also worth pointing out, how this research developed. Jenny Kim Nguyen starting as an undergrad.
Yeah, and now pursuing a master's focused on those standardized protocols. That's real dedication.
It is. And the fact it was funded by UTA's Research Enhancement Program, which supports this kind of multidisciplinary work, shows institutions are recognizing the need.
That's good to hear. It feels like a problem that needs that kind of focused long-term effort.
Definitely.
Okay, so as we start to wrap up this deep dive, let's crystallize the key takeaways from this UT Arlington study. What should we really keep in mind?
Well, first, I think it's just the core reality. Microplastics from wastewater treatment. Still a big ongoing issue. The plants help, but they don't get it all.
Right. Incomplete removal is the norm, not the exception. And these plastics can carry other pollutants back into the environment.
Which has potential knock-on effects for ecosystems and possibly our health, too. That's takeaway one.
Okay. And the second big one?
The challenge of measuring the problem.
Yeah.
The lack of standardized methods, even a standard definition for microplastics. It really hinders progress.
It makes it hard to know how bad it is, where it's worst, and if solutions are actually working.
Precisely. So the study really calls for that unified approach, standardizing how we test and define these things. That's critical.
Alongside improving the actual treatment technologies, of course.
Of course. But it also circles back to us, the consumer awareness part. Our choices, especially around textiles, do play a role in the bigger picture.
Yeah, it's been a really eye-opening discussion. It's one of those problems that's easy to ignore because it's invisible, but, well, the potential consequences aren't.
Mm-hmm. And understanding the problem, like this study helps us do, is always the first step towards finding real solutions.
Absolutely. So maybe a final thought for you, the listener, to chew on.
Go for it.
Given how plastic is just so pervasive, way beyond the obvious stuff like bottles and bags and clothes, where else might these microplastics be coming from? What are the less obvious sources we haven't even talked much about?
That's a good one. Like tire wear on roads, paints, cosmetics, maybe still.
Yeah, exactly. And what other research might we need to really get our arms around the full scale of this challenge, thinking about its long-term impact on everything?
It's definitely something worth pondering, isn't it, as we navigate this increasingly plastic world.